So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hello, everybody. It's me, the Dapper Dinosaur, whose channel you're on, and Jackson Wheat, whose channel you should know about if you don't. Yeah, it's in the title actually.
Absolutely.
The title says parentheses featuring @Jackson Wheat. If you click on that, you'll be taken to his channel where you can subscribe, which you should. So yeah, there you go. Also, Jackson was late, so today we get to torment him, but we're gonna describe that later. So first,
I'm
we're
tormented every day.
well, okay, but usually not by my audience.
Fair enough, I guess.
So, all right, here's how this is gonna go. We are gonna go with Jackson Wheat. We're gonna talk about bad Jackson. You're good, Jackson, and we're gonna drink for certain things, right? Since we have a little drinking game, which, by the way, we don't actually encourage that you play along with because it's dangerous, and drink safely. And we're not responsible for any kind of damages to yourself, to property, to other persons, any death, dismemberment, drunk text to exes. Yep, we're not responsible for that either. So don't do any of those things. Just be safe. However, the drinking rules are as follows. 1. We drink whenever Dr. Charles Jackson, Bad Jackson, gets something so wrong we kinda just have to. Because it's that bad. We drink whenever Dr. Charles Jackson, Bad Jackson, get something actually right that he's not just quoting from someone. We also take a drink anytime he tells a story that didn't happen, tells a joke that doesn't land, or he brings up the National Socialist German Workers' Party or any leaders thereof. We also have a few ways for some more random or perhaps caused by you drink triggers. So, if my phone makes the Godzilla or the Mothra roars, we take a drink. If you're a channel member, you'll have access to the special channel emojis, and if you send a super chat of any length, any price, that has any of the Godzilla, Mothra, or King Ghidorah emojis in any order, we'll take a drink for that. And just for today, we're going to take a drink anytime anyone super chats anything that says, my favorite stem bird is, and then names a pterosaur. Because as we all know, Jackson Wheat's favorite stem birds are pterosaurs. Isn't this true, Jackson?
What? Birds are pterosaurs. David Peters for the win.
Well, we should have a David Peters stream sometime.
Oh god, does he do videos?
I don't know, but he does fake papers, and I read fake papers here.
It would be so funny if he... I mean, yeah, that also sounds fun, because I was on for one of your streams.
Yeah? Alright, and last but not least, as always, because AIG likes to copyright claim basically everything I upload that has anything of theirs, we take a drink anytime anyone super chats anything to the effect of that AIG are a bag of dicks. Except you can't just type dicks in YouTube, so you gotta get creative with it. Also, I want to say a special thank you to Rainy Thursday for becoming a channel member at the Tetrapod level, as well as to Star Runner for upgrading to the Amnio. Guys, if you want to join the channel, there's a button. It starts at $1.99 a month. You get early access to all the various videos early. Obviously, that's what early access is. Depending on your tier, you get access to other things. And Goopdo3 says for $2, Happy Tuesday with a TWO, because of course today is 2-2-2-2. Wait, 2-2-2-2-2. Yeah, 5 twos. There you go.
2-2-2-2022.
Yeah, I guess if we have to wait
or
till
you could just do 2-2-2-2-2. You could just do that, I guess.
In 200 years, this day is going to be even more awesome.
More twos.
All right.
You get a 2. You get a 2.
Everybody gets a 2. How many 2s can you fit in one calendar date? And the answer is never again this many, except for ties. But in 1,000 years or 2,000 years, even more. Oh wait, no, 20,000 years. There you go. Anyway, Dr. Charles Jackson. Here we go. We're gonna hit play.
That's just natural selection, which would happen whether Darwin was right or wrong. It's transparent to the issue.
Okay, hold on. What was... So
is it really?
Natural selection would happen whether Darwin was right or wrong, but What was his big idea? What was the big thing that he was pushing?
I feel like it started with a natural and ended with selection.
Yeah. It's
I mean, look, is he right? Would someone else have figured out natural selection? Yeah. I mean, Darwin wasn't even the only person in his time who figured that out. We also have Alfred Russel Wallace, but I mean, you know, we kind of thank Darwin for that big insight.
yeah, it's weird. It's like, hey, you know what? Space-time would bend around matter whether Einstein is right or wrong. It's like, okay, yeah, but like that's the thing he was right about.
Right.
Like that's the whole point. Andrew Cummings says, you're assuming that humanity has survived that long? I don't know. I mean, humanity's been around for a few 100,000 years. I think it's got another 20,000 left in it. That actually wouldn't shock me that much. I don't know. I'm pessimistic.
But they've annexed it and thrown it in the face of unwitting young people and many church Christians too. And
Church Christians as opposed to like...
Next.
I don't know what the other like group of Christians are. There's like
The
church
temple
Christians?
Christians.
The temple Christians. Okay.
Temple Christians? Synagogue Christians?
You know, there are actually groups of Christians who typically call their church buildings temples. And that's a thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Here we go.
made them wither and feel foolish.
Oh, no.
For this?
Why would you feel foolish? Oh, he's saying if you believe in evolution...
self-reflection.
He's saying if you believe in evolution and you're a Christian, you should feel foolish about your Christianity because of something that I don't think contradicts it. That's dumb. I'll take a drink.
I thought he was saying, and I think we missed like the first part of the sentence, but I thought he was saying, like, evolution is true, but if you're a church Christian, you're necessarily a creationist. Therefore, we are trying to make you feel foolish. Because you don't accept natural selection, obviously.
CRISPR-Cas asks me if I'm playing this at ×1 speed or sorry, at 0.75 speed, or if this guy just sounds slow. I did just click the default play speed, so it should be at normal speed. So whatever you're about to hear, which I think is what it always was, is his actual, tempo of speech. Here we go.
You can believe in evolution if you want to, but not for this. You gotta find something else. Something better, something with science.
Okay, I feel like I should remind people what we were just talking about last time, because it's been a while. It's been a long road, getting from there to here.
But for like 2 months, and we're still how long into this video?
We're about 41 minutes, 21 and a half minutes in.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so before this, we were talking about antibacterial resistance, or antibiotic resistance in bacteria, right? And what Charles Jackson was describing is exactly what evolution via natural selection is, which is to say, you have a population with variability, some selection pressure comes in, and one variation in the population leads to significantly increased fitness, so that predominates the new population. And then he just said that's not evolution. And Mandela 1998 for $5 says, can't wait till Homo sapiens speciate into Homo Earthians and Homo Martians. Well, maybe in 20,000 years that'll have already happened. So basically, what I was saying to Jackson earlier is what Charles Jackson is basically doing is saying, hey, so you know how at the pizza parlor, right? They'll tell you that this is how they make a pizza. And they take some flour and some salt and some oil and a little bit of sugar to help it brown. And they mix that all up and they put in some yeast and let it rise. And then they knead the dough and they spin it into a circle. And then they add some tomato sauce on top. And then they sprinkle on some mozzarella, maybe, low moisture, part skim mozzarella. That's pretty good pizza cheese. Then you put it in that 800-degree wood oven. You take it out in a couple minutes. But that's not pizza. And it's like, no, you've just described the minimum pizza making process, my man. That might not be, like a fancy deep dish supreme pizza, but you have in fact described the minimum of what is a pizza. And that's just what he's doing for evolution. It's like, yes, this is not the exact process that's going to get you all the way from, Luca to humans, but this is the minimum of what that process is. And for $10, Blitzwinser says, I get to be here because bad weather made going out to work more dangerous. than I care to deal with today, so have some money. Well, I hope you stay safe out there, Blitzwinters. I don't know where you are, but I assume it's someplace that's absolutely too cold to be legal. So reach out to your local
communisms.
Yeah, reach out to your local legislative representative and demand a legal limit to how cold it can be.
What I'm saying.
Yeah, actually, there was a state senator in the United States. I think he was like Iowa or something. But yeah, he not that long ago tried to sue God over natural disasters.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Where is, you know what? When did God pay taxes last? I'm pretty sure it's been a while.
Well, the question is,
Be doing 9 to 5.
if we account all the income that's going into churches to like the churches, then technically it's not personally owned by God. So it gets tricky. There's a very complicated tax situation with God.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
However, I will say this: the state senator did argue that he had fulfilled the requirements of proper service by serving actual notice upon the defendant, because being both omniscient and omnipresent, God was there when he wrote the complaint and also had full knowledge of it due to the omniscience. So, I mean, clever way to get around any service problems for God. And TAB or Tab, I'm not really sure, says for $20, my favorite stem bird is Tapahara Wellnoferi. Wow, that's a really good choice. Thank you very much. We'll take a drink. Yeah, Tapahara is a really fun, like, gigantic crested pterosaur, and it's from South America, which is a little unusual. We don't have a whole lot of South American pterosaurs, so that's, you know what, that's up there on my list of stem birds too. But here's some more.
Darwinopterus for the win.
I mean, look, okay, so here's the thing. You're going to have trouble finding a pterosaur that you're going to name that I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I can see why that's a cool pterosaur, because they're all cool. That's the secret. Yeah.
Anorognathus, the weird little guy.
But they're adorable. They got these gigantic baby eyes and a cute flat little
pugs.
face.
They're so ugly, they're cute.
No, they're ironically cute, Jackson. And your Ignathus are adorable, and I want to hug them, even though they're all dead. Here we go.
Or something, but not this. This is not evolution. You know, even if evolution was real, I as a scientist would not be able to accept that as proof of evolution.
Hold up.
You're a scientist, are you?
What is your field of research, Dr. Jackson? I'm just taking a drink for Charles Jackson, PhD in education, just going out and like, as a scientist.
I'm willing to bet that there are no publications in any journal anywhere that have his name on them.
That does not seem far-fetched at all.
I'm willing to take that bet.
Yeah. So, goodness. Here's another thing. It's very, very rare that anyone starts off a sentence with as a, and then they insert any noun or noun phrase, and that actually helps make them sound more intelligent or more authoritative on the topic. Very rare.
Yeah.
Not never. Like, you know, it does happen. Like if I say, you know, as a sailor for 6 years, I promise you'll figure out your sea legs eventually if you're out on the water for long enough. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Because, you know, first-hand knowledge, okay. But when you say, as a scientist, I think, because first, who self-identifies as a scientist, first of all? It's like, you say things like, well, as a microbiologist, or as a botanist, or right, as a specialist in cetacean intermittent organs, as Jackson Wheat is.
And I mean, even if you're giving your expert opinion, I don't think anyone in the field like prefaces as
right,
as like what is your thought on this, on like the the gametophyte generation of ferns? Well, as a botanist, like we kind of assume you're a botanist.
That's why we asked
the gametophyte generation of ferns. Like, right? It's like nobody does that.
Yeah,
it's just not a thing that happens.
But anyway, that's just Charles Jackson being a weirdo. Let's see what his other arguments are.
Because it's not logical. Okay, here's a book called Understanding Evolution, which was a textbook at.
So not peer reviewed. He should have read it, but also not peer reviewed. So even if there's problems, like, come on, dude.
Drugs acting as selecting agents, permitting pre-existing mutations to express themselves. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
Mutations have occurred in bacterial populations that enable the mutant bacterial cells to survive in the presence of the drug. Yep, that's exactly correct. Great.
Carson Newman.
Wonderful.
TC the Unbeliever says, "Hello, my name is Scientist," which reminds me, John Pendleton of "Hello, I'm a Scientist" fame has sadly passed away this month. So, yeah,
No.
he never found those pterosaurs. Man, I was on the edge of my seat for a while. Like, maybe he's gonna go to like South America and find the actual poison breath pterosaurs somehow.
If they're still alive, then they're not stem birds.
Oh, hey, apparently Sal says that Dr. Charles Jackson and he went to school together. We were undergrads at George Mason University. They awarded three biology PhDs to young Earth creationists. I mean, yeah, creationists can get biology degrees. I can think of quite a few.
You can find, like, Jonathan Wells has written papers, Michael Behe. I mean, a lot of these guys have contributed to the literature in their respective fields. I don't think Charles Jackson has. I know a lot of them have in whatever field it is that they. Andrew Snelling has various papers that he's, published
In the wrong journals mostly, but
I mean, like he will do like normal geology papers where he talks about some formation being billions of years old.
Yeah, that's true. But then he'll also tell us how there are no cracks in these folded bedding, while hiding the cracks by putting his students in front of them and then publishing in the journal of which he is the sole editor. Because, you gotta love that peer review. And Caleb Sherstead for $5 says, 2 tubers from Peru took tutelage on taboo tattoos. Showing what they drew, the first showed AIG as a bag of flutes. The second did too. And we're going to take a drink for that one, because that was nice. There was a lot of tongue-twistery goodness there. Vandali 1998 for $5 says, at least he's misquoting a college text, not an elementary one. Yeah, that's true. He's got that on Cantovans. And also,
step up.
It's not from the 90s. It's from 2000. We're almost in this century. One more year. One more year to go and we'll be in this century.
Good Lord.
In college, when I taught there, we required textbook in biology. Not any course I taught, though. Mutations have occurred in bacterial populations that enable the mutant bacterial cells to survive in the presence of the drug. They're saying mutations have happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes a mutation can happen. Let me tell you what can happen.
Thank you. You know what? I'm going to take a drink for getting it right. Thank you, Dr. Charles Jackson. Yes, sometimes mutations can happen.
Is in fact the case.
It's almost like if you combine that with your previous statement that natural selection works, you kind of just gave up the game on evolution by natural selection, but what do I know?
A little bacteria, dude,
that was
can, and I was explaining to a
this?
stewardess on the airplane today. She asked me what I was going to do in town, and I told her, and she said, really? And I said, well, yeah.
Story that didn't
Here's
happen.
what can happen.
Yeah, I mean...
Let's get to the end of it first.
Okay.
Many antibiotic drugs
that was the end of it.
Can kill the bacteria.
I'll drink for
They're
that.
not very poisonous, but when they enter the cell of the bacteria, they can chemically react and combine with some metabolite that's in the bacterium.
Yes, that's how poison
Literally
works.
called poison, my guy. That's how that works.
Maybe he means they're not very poisonous.
Not a poison.
Maybe he means they're not poisonous to you, which is also kind of the point.
Yeah.
Right? Like the idea that we target certain organisms with poisons tailored to affect those organisms and not the one we don't want.
If you don't die while they're treating you with an antibiotic, you did it wrong.
Well, I mean, look, he was the guy who earlier recommended broad spectrum antibiotics for all bacterial infections, which is just horrifying. That's a super bad idea.
Is also, fun fact, why it's harder to treat people for protozoan parasites and fungi than it is just for bacteria. Almost like we share more in common with them or something.
So things that poison protozoans are more likely to poison animals because they share more biochemical pathways in common, huh?
Whoa.
It's almost like that's
crazy.
a prediction of evolution.
Here's my guy.
No, that can't be.
In other words, the antibiotic is depending on a certain chemical being inside of the bacteria cell to create a poison and kill the bacterial cell.
Well, no, it is a poison. It usually disrupts some metabolic pathway, like
Right. Yeah, the all the beta lactams that we use, like penicillin and carbapenem and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, what they're doing is they are inhibiting the transpeptidase enzymes from rebuilding the cell wall, or from reforming those peptidoglycan crosslinks. And so it is the prevention of that process which causes basically the cell parts to leak out, kill the bacteria. So it's not so much interfering with, or it's not like messing with metabolites per se. It's basically gumming up the enzymes.
Okay.
Still a poison, right? It's still what a
look,
poison does.
Poisons are chemicals that get into your cells, and they do things that your cells shouldn't be doing, or they do things that shouldn't be going on, which causes like physical damage to the cell, or it causes cell death for some other reason, or things like that, right?
Right.
And it's a metabolite, some kind of chemical that's naturally found in the bacterium. What if the bacterium is born with a mutation and it can't produce that enzyme? Now, that happens in humans too.
Yeah.
People who are born with the mutation of being lactase deficient. The protein that naturally is produced, the enzyme protein that's naturally produced from the lactase producing gene, that gene has a copying error in it. It has a nucleotide sequence error in it, and so
that's not it.
Its function has, the lights have gone out.
No, it's not a problem in the protein coding region of lactase. That would more likely cause lactase not to work, and then you just wouldn't produce lactase.
An enhancer, isn't it?
Yeah, lactase persistence.
Regulating the
exactly.
Yeah, it's upregulating the functioning of the lactase, where we should stop producing it in.
Yeah. So what normally happens
basically
is eventually other genes just end up monopolizing the transcription time in all of your cells, and so lactase just never really gets transcribed. Maybe trace amounts might, right? But not enough that you're going to be able to just eat ice cream and be fine. So what lactase persistence does is it actually upregulates the production of this, and it doesn't affect the actual sequence of the protein coding region of the lactase gene at all. That's perfectly standard. It's just that it gets expressed more because your cells are getting a signal from upstream saying, hey, this is an important protein. Make this enzyme. Let's go. And then humans have access to a whole new calorie source, which is the secretions of other mammals.
Delicious.
Hey, man, I put milk in my coffee. And sometimes I put buttermilk in my pancakes. And that that basically covers the milk consumption. I have cheese sometimes, too.
Did you ever see, side tangent, did you ever see that meme that, like, PETA put out? It's like a person suckling at a cow. It's a little cartoon that someone drew.
Yeah, I think I saw. Well, I've seen things like it.
You think this is okay? And everyone was like, yeah. Like, I don't think they had the intended effect.
Look, PETA memes always backfire as far as I can tell.
They do.
PETA
like, look, in principle,
worse.
I agree. I understand in principle what you guys are trying to do, but you are terrible at it.
Right. It also doesn't help they kill so many animals at their shelters, and that they'll literally steal pets from children to go kill them, and it's like, dude, not a good look.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's horrifying.
All right, here we go.
Right.
It's a broken circuit. It's short-circuited. It can't work. The gene ceases to function because that has a copying error in it.
Remember, he's still talking about lactase persistence, so he's getting it extremely backwards. I'm taking a drink for this.
Just like a line of computer code could crash and jam up because of a one letter being wrong. Same thing's happening.
Okay.
I hate computer analogies with genetics. I really do.
Yeah, there's a few problems here. Okay, so because it's fairly simple, we're going to talk about a protein coding region in the genome and what a single nucleotide substitution would mean, right? So that's, we pick a nucleotide and we switch it from an A to a C, a G, or a T, right? Okay. So in a protein coding sequence, I can talk, there's a series of codons, and there's two options, right? Either this nucleotide change can cause a synonymous codon, which means that it still produces the exact same amino acid when transcribed into, the ribosome. So the protein doesn't change at all. Or it can switch to a different codon, and that codon can either be a start codon, in which case it does break the upstream stuff. It can be a stop codon, in which case it produces a new smaller protein. Or it can be a new amino acid, in which case it will now produce a chemically distinct protein. Now, that chemically distinct protein may or may not still function in the original way, because it may not affect the functional site, and it may not affect the folding. And if it does neither of those, then it's going to be fine. But it may affect the folding or the functional site, which might mean that the protein loses function, but it also might equally mean that it has some other function. Or it might mean it now functions at two things poorly, whereas before it did one thing well. But if new thing is, particularly helpful, that might help. And Evan's Reason says, in any case, good call for identifying a mistake. Oh, there's a lot of mistakes in this one, Sal.
Let me give you an example, like a real world example.
I would love a real world example.
One of my favorite examples of a point mutation, because typically when we talk about like mutations generating novelty, I like to go to duplication events, especially with Agrivalia. But there's a really interesting little paper was published in PNAS a number of years ago.
Hey, real quick before he goes, I just want to say, Many Karen for 15 shekels says, can't stay, so I'm dropping my shekels before I have to go. Have fun. Thank you very much. I always appreciate getting the shekels because it's one of my favorite currency symbols. That's not that funny, Jackson. Come on.
It's just a funny word. I don't know. But so one of my favorite examples, there's this garter snake genus that's Thamnophis, and most of them are found in like the eastern United States. And there are a bunch of species within this one genus. And so 3 of them have developed point mutations, independent point mutations in this one gene for a muscle sodium channel protein. Basically, have these this sodium and potassium flipped. Regardless, you have sodium and potassium on opposite sides of like muscle and nerve cells, and what these do is they switch positions, and this generates electrical potential along your cells. This is especially important for how you propagate signals between your nerves. You can do all this sort of stuff. It's because you're propagating little electrical signals. And so there's also this newt in the environment, which is highly toxic. It's called Tarica. It produces this neurotoxic tetrodotoxin. So 3 different species of this garter snake have independently developed point mutations in the same gene, which is this sodium channel protein. And what normally happens when something tries to eat this newt is the tetrodotoxin basically prevents your little sodium channel from importing the sodium. And what that does is it means you can't propagate the signal, which is paralysis. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So by having these like individual little point mutations, and it's only like 1 or 2 in each of these species, it slightly changes the conformation of the sodium channels so that the tetrodotoxin can no longer bind. So they can eat these newts without getting paralyzed.
Get wrecked, newts.
So
that's fine, and that's fine. And the thing is, in order to say that that's impossible via evolution, you have to show why those mutations couldn't occur.
And it's just like,
I mean, good luck showing why
like 1 or 2 point mutations.
Yeah, right? good luck showing why 2 point mutations couldn't occur. Because I'll tell you what, much bigger changes happen in observed timelines. And also, the fun thing is, these are what most creationists would consider to be a single kind. So either they all started out immune to this tetrodotoxin and all lost that ability in exactly the same way,
right?
Or maybe, just maybe, 3 species out of many managed to get a few lucky mutations. Just maybe. Just saying.
I mean, you would have to, if you wanted to argue that all the other garter snakes, not just the garter snakes, because they consider the family level, right? The kind.
Usually.
So all the other species and genera within this family all independently lost all these alleles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be an astronomically unlikely phylogenetic signal from that. It'd be
Yeah.
so non-parsimonious. It'd be like your p-value would be so less than like
Your p-value is just 0.9. Oh wait, no, yeah, it's low for p-values.
It'd be like point.
I'm
like when you
confusing
do the
p and r
calculations-
squared values. That's what I'm doing. I'm sorry. Bad
Yeah, it'd
dapper.
be like 0.0000 many zeros. You know. It'd be
Yeah.
super non-parsimonious.
Sorry, guys. It's been a while since I did a whole lot of stats, so sometimes I mix up like r and r squared values with p values. You can flagellate me later.
You're fine. You've done a lot more math in your years than I have, so it's fine.
That might be true.
Probably.
So,
I only took Calc
if
2, so.
Well, I sometimes do n-dimensional vector math in Blender just for funsies.
Sounds rough.
It is rough.
This little bacteria guy can't produce the enzyme the antibiotic was counting on being there, and he can live. I mean, it could be. I mean, you can live and be lactase deficient. You're just going to get real sick if you eat an ice cream cone.
Wait, hold on. Is he saying that lactase persistence is the default and not the mutation?
That's not how that works. Lactase persistence
to
is,
drink.
is the new thing.
We can identify when and where that occurred in a few different populations. Like, that's... And it's not the same exact mutation in every population with lactase persistence either.
Right.
We know it happened a few times independently. Like, if I remember correctly, the group... There's, like, 3 main groups. There's, like, one in East Asia, one in Africa, and one across Eurasia that have independent, or, like... lactase persistence mutations. And so if you're lactase persistent, you have family from one of these groups. So yeah, that's bizarre. Or maybe actually humans started out with 3 different distinct genotypes for lactase persistence given by God, and then almost everyone had that break in not in exactly the same way, in different ways to make it look like that was the ancestral condition. So all the back mutations have to happen so that it looks like the ancestral condition. Then that has to spread across most of the human population. Then, yeah, okay, I think you guys can see why that doesn't seem like the most likely situation.
Didn't we talk about that? But for like bacteria in a previous episode, he suggested all the mutations were already there.
Something like that, yeah. We
were like, wait, what are you talking about?
So it honestly, it comes up a lot with creationism once you realize that they have this idea of kinds, right? So you look at, well, within a kind, the differences have to be explainable by what everyone else would just call evolutionary processes, right? So if the okapi and the giraffe both descend from a common ancestor, like Answers in Genesis says, and that ancestor is also the ancestor of all the other giraffids, well, then you can't say that the check valves in the giraffe's neck are a sign of design and the giraffe couldn't have evolved from a short neck ancestor, because the okapi doesn't have that, and there's no reason to think any of its other short-necked relatives have it. And you know what? The also related pronghorn in America, they don't have that either. So or you'll get the same thing with the panda's thumb, right? Famously, creationists wrote a textbook called The Panda's Thumb. But pandas are in Ursidae, and creationists generally consider Ursidae to be a single created kind. So did all bears start with a panda's thumb, and then they all reduced it to a normal sesamoid bone in their wrist, just coincidentally? That doesn't seem like the most likely outcome. So yeah, it had to come about via evolutionary processes. I mean, what else you got? It's kind of the only game in town. So
yeah, they want to have it, as we talked about with that, because Ham, or the people at AIG, both push the ancestral sort of okapi-like giraffoid, and at the same time, the giraffe is a paragon of irreducible complexity.
Right, you gotta make a choice.
You can't have both. It literally has to only be one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have both at the same time. But as we know, and everyone who follows like baraminology know, don't think about these things.
No, they really don't.
Or when ID proponents say, like, Stephen Meyer will say, like, oh, yes, the phylum is basically the created kind, right? The phyla just show up in the fossil record. But
Yikes.
also, I don't think whales are descended from terrestrial mammals. And like, I don't think flowers have ancestors, and dinosaurs don't have ancestors, and birds, and it's like
Even though all of these things have obvious ancestral forms in the fossil
like
record.
these are way
Right.
way afield of the phylum level. Like,
Also,
what are you talking about?
Why is it that stem onychophorans and stem arthropods look so damn much alike, Jackson?
Okay, so I know
This is
crazy,
super off
right?
topic,
Who
but
would've-
I'm curious.
Who would have thunk it? What a crazy world we live. No, he lumps them all together. This Lobopodia.
Oh, I hate that.
And Darwin's doubt. First of all, he did that. He got called on it and said, "Well, some people also use the term Lobopodia. Yeah, but they also recognize it's paraphyletic."
Right, and also
And
no
some
one is
lobopods-
suggesting it as, like, a phylum or the created kind or anything like
Yeah.
this.
Exactly. No, he just kind of tosses it off. He's like, "Yeah, there are Lobopods back in the Cambrian, and then there are arthropods and onychophorans and tardigrades." It's like, hold on. Go back. Go back. Talk about this. But no, he doesn't talk about or everything is just kind of like, wow, there's so much stuff. It doesn't matter
Oh.
that some of these like the arthropods have like not as much tagmosis or specialized appendages or a sclerotized exoskeleton. None of that matters. They're weird, and not going to talk about how they
Just
relate
because
to
they're
later
exactly
arthropods.
what we would expect for evolution to predict to have existed in the ancestry of arthropods and their relatives, pff, who cares? All right,
Yeah,
let's
no,
get some
it's-
more Bad Jackson in, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
None of that frozen custard stuff. if you
I
are
don't know.
lactase deficient,
Oh,
you're
it was a
that joke
joke.
that
That was a
didn't
joke
land.
that didn't land.
Well,
Okay.
what if this little bacteria guy, maybe he can live. He's a little sickly little bacteria. He's missing one of the enzymes that all good bacteria are supposed to have.
Yeah, no one who's missing one enzyme is gonna. Oh my goodness! Look, okay, guys.
What?
I'm
Does
not
he
saying
think,
go
like-
break all your enzymes, but like, you can have an enzyme or two that don't work. It's gonna be okay.
Do you think all bacteria are E. coli?
I think.
Because I feel like he's heard of like the lac operon. You know, he's aware of it. That's maybe why he brought up this example. Like, he doesn't seem to realize that that's E. coli. It's not all bacteria,
Yeah.
guy.
Also, I think he thinks that all bacteria are like minimally complex, so that they have the exact minimum number of enzymes that they need to survive. Because otherwise, why would you say that? Which, spoiler alerts, no. No, most bacteria
Yeah,
are
no,
not
that's
minimally complex. I don't think any of them are, actually, now that I think about it.
It's just fractally untrue.
Oh, apparently frozen custard is what Southerners call soft serve, says Goop23. Is that true, Jackson?
That what soft serve it? Because it doesn't have the same consistency as ice cream. It has a different. That custard though? If that is, I didn't know that.
Well, so
Correct.
normally frozen custard I would think of as actual frozen custard, which is a thing. It's very similar to ice cream, but it has egg yolk in it.
Maybe because like soft serve has a slightly different sort of texture and consistency.
We'll have to call up
Compared-
our culinary experts. Why don't we have one of those? We should get one of those.
Oh.
I don't know how it would help with most of our videos, but I mean, I feel like it can't hurt to just have a culinary expert like on call. And we're gonna have to get on that because we've got like geology guys and genetics guys and primatology lady. We got to get a culinary expert.
Like culinary experts, horticulturalists.
Yeah, I mean, all of it.
Landscape designers. I mean, come on.
Let's not go crazy. Stem bird experts who know all the things about pterosaurs.
Fight you.
In case you guys haven't figured out, for no logical reason, Jackson Wheat is emotionally upset about the fact that pterosaurs are stem birds. And I challenged him. I said, find me a group of extant organisms that are more closely related to pterosaurs than birds are. He has yet to do so. Which means that by the definition of what a stem taxon is, pterosaurs are stem birds.
Don't like anything.
But the antibiotic can't kill him,
That's true. That's true. Take a drink.
so he's immune. A mutation did occur, which actually
Yeah.
did make him immune.
Sure.
Hence evolution occurred.
Great.
I'll
That's
take another
wonderful.
drink because that's all true.
But it was the turning off of a gene.
Okay.
It was the falling out of the function of previous genetic DNA information.
Previous genetic DNA information is not a phrase I'm familiar with. I think
It's not a phrase I'm familiar with either.
Jackson, did your camera die?
It's fine. I'll be back on in a sec.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to be if you don't want to be. You're embarrassed.
Right.
Why would you be embarrassed, Jackson? You're wonderful.
Oh my goodness. It's okay. I'll be back in a sec. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not evolution because it's just loss. It's not, an evolution is only gain as Charles Darwin famously said, evolution does not involve the loss of any structures ever.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't have anything to say about vestigial structures or anything like that.
Like a chapter 13 that involved vestigial structures or anything.
Well, of course not, because he skipped over chapter 13 because it's an unlucky chapter to write.
I think he also did not write about it in Descent of Man. That didn't happen.
Look, no one's even read that book, Jackson. That book basically doesn't exist.
You're right. You are absolutely correct.
I mean, look, I haven't read it. I don't care what Charles Darwin has to say about the Descent of Man. To be honest, I barely care what he has to say about anything else because it doesn't really matter. It's just historical curiosity.
Yeah.
Oh, Star Runner for $5 says, my favorite stem bird is Nyctosaurus. First, we're going to take a drink. Nyctosaurus is fun because it's actually a stem bird that I have a pretty nice 3D model of that I bought for like $15 way back in the day. And if you look at some of my older videos, you can actually see it in some of my videos. I turned Emery Moyna of In His Image into a talking Nyctosaurus in my series about him. Whenever he was talking on screen and he didn't have a graphic, it was the Nyctosaurus talking instead of the actual footage of him. So
pretty funny.
Yeah, that's my little connection there. And also, of course, Nyctosaurus is very, very closely related to Pteranodon, but AIG likes to split them into two different kinds, even though I'm pretty sure if you saw them yourself in the flesh, you'd be like, yeah, that's the same thing. They just got weird crests. Their crests are different.
In the same family?
So, no, but again, family is arbitrary.
You are correct. Family is arbitrary. I was just wondering.
Well, that's the thing. That's why they do it. Is because
taxonomy.
They just go for anything that ends in IDAE. Like, that's almost certainly like auto-accept as a kind.
Yep.
Nyctosauridae. Who cares about analyzing how closely related it is to the genus Pteranodon? I don't care.
They did that
rubber
for
stamp
most
it.
things, but in the in Jean Leitner's the Mammalian Archekinds paper, she did say the thylacine is its own species kind.
Like,
Also, I think Dermoptera is its own kind.
okay, but why? Because you could just lump the thylacine, the Tasmanian devil, and the quoll all together and save so much extra room, and they look so similar.
The kinds, I just destroy them. I don't make the kinds.
Fair enough. I hate the kinds list because in some cases I'm like, why didn't you just combine these nearly identical groups? And other places I'm like, why would you lump such a ridiculous amount of diversity together? It's just
Dapper, Bovinae, Capernae, Antilopenae.
Okay.
They're all separate kinds, even though they're all Bovidae. Why, Dapper? Please tell our audience why they're different.
Because people think of them as being different, so they must be.
There we go.
So in case you guys don't know, those are the subfamilies of Bovidae, which include the cattle, the sheep, the goats, the antelopes. That's all the same family, but AIG is just like, nah, bro. People think those are different things, so they gotta be. That's the entire line of reasoning.
Literally, word for word is what they say. If you don't believe us, look up Jean Leitner's The Mammalian Archekinds and read it all the way
rough.
through.
It's a rough read.
Word for word, people tend to think of them as separate kinds.
Also,
That's the justification.
I had Kurt Wise tell me not that long ago, well, not directly to me, but he said it to his audience, which I was part of, that you're a coward if you don't decide to put Antilocapridae either with the deer or the antelope. You gotta pick.
You're a coward? That's such a weirdly aggressive thing to say.
So, Smart Alec Atheist says for $5, AIG are the perfect examples of the genus Homo erectus. Spelled wrong, dysfunctions. Nice, we'll take a drink for that. Alright, here we go. More Charles Jackson.
It was the loss of genetic information.
Oh no.
This-
Charles Jackson, here's the thing about genetic information. Till you give me a unit and a way to use the unit to objectively measure the genetic information in any genome in a way that can be reproduced by others, every time you say genetic information, I just hear white noise. Because it doesn't mean anything. Or maybe pink noise, because I like pink noise better.
Or yeah, exactly. I
Pink-
mean, you're
guys-
right. There's no way to quantify genetic information. Now, you may see the term information occasionally in scientific research.
Yeah,
that
inf-
happens. But
It's bandied about somewhat informally.
you're right, exactly. It's informal. If the researchers are ever talking about a specific gene or an enhancer region or a repressor region or a promoter region, they will say so.
Mm-hmm.
It never refer to sequences as just information.
Right.
Never. It doesn't happen because it doesn't mean anything. You have to be able to describe, to point to exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah.
so that if someone, right, as you said, if someone else can come along, say, oh, you're referring to this segment of the genome right here.
Yeah.
And
Basically,
they
numbers
can't do
or
that.
STFU.
Right, exactly. And so, if you pull out two different sequences of different lengths, which has more information, which has less information, or look at two different genes, is it more information because the actual gene sequence is longer, or the protein is longer, or is it based on how many functions the protein has? How many different ways it can be cut up into alternative transcripts? I have no explanation for any of that. It just is never addressed ever at any point.
Hold up. Smart Alec Atheist says that YouTube wouldn't allow him to use the word erectus spelled correctly in super chats. So he had to misspell it to get it through. Thanks,
Really?
YouTube. I mean, I have no reason to doubt him. YouTube would be that stupid. That's
Jesus.
hilarious. That reminds me of one time I was watching a Twitch stream, and I was watching a Warhammer fantasy game, and the guy was playing as Dark Elves, who are from a continent called Nagarond, and Twitch would not let me put in the name of his faction's home continent because
No.
it was far too close to a slur, apparently. And I was like,
Yikes.
I had to just work around like the home continent of your faction, like type that all out. And he's like, why are you talking like that? I'm like, they won't let me say the real name. Sorry, man. It's got too many similarities to another word, apparently.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Freaking Yikes.
Yeah, so here we go.
Is unevolution. It's backwards evolution. It's devolution.
Oh, that is not a thing. We're going to take a drink. Even if you don't like it, it's not backwards.
This is that oh crap. What is that rule called? It's the irreversibility rule.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I also don't remember the name.
I can never remember the name of it. Anyways, it's someone's law, quote of irreversibility. It's not really a law. It's more of like a statistical probability of certain evolutionary trajectories.
Yeah.
But the basically the point is, it becomes increasingly unlikely to reverse mutations the further you go.
Mm-hmm.
Even still, that would also still be evolution because it's a change in allele frequencies. So
In a population
Womp
over
womp.
time?
yeah.
Yeah.
So womp womp, I guess. Whatever.
Hey, you know what? If you redefine science, you can make creationism correct.
I guess that's true.
So there you go. That's all we have to do, is we have to abandon all of our rigorous, real definitions that have useful, practical applications and replace them with nonsense. Oh, apparently CRISPR-Cas says it's Dolo's Law.
Dolo's law of irreversibility. Yeah, God, I can never remember the name. It's like not used for anything basically though.
Well, I mean,
basically a guy
when does it
kind
come
of
up?
came up with it. Right, exactly. And it's like a guy sort of came up with it and it's like, yeah, I guess that's broadly true. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah. Anyway, here we go.
Doug Sharp's fond of saying that, yeah. It's devolution. If that was true, if that actually could make the bacteria better, then all bacteria should just turn off all their genes and become people.
I'm not sure
like
where to
4 or
begin.
5 drink calls in one.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna finish this drink. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this, and then we're gonna go on a break so I can go get a new drink because I'm drinking rum and coke, which I very rarely do. Okay, that wasn't the finish it because I'm gonna start talking a little bit. I'm gonna drink a little bit more. It's gonna be like a back and forth sort of thing. Okay.
Jesus.
First, there's no such thing as an objectively better bacterium in all circumstances. How well an organism is doing is entirely dependent on the interaction between itself and its environment, which includes not only the surrounding outside, but also other organisms in its environment, other members of the same species, anything that isn't the organism itself that it encounters is the environment. Now, mutations are beneficial or harmful. Hold on, I have to take a drink. Mutations are beneficial or harmful based on whether or not they enhance reproductive fitness in the current environment. If the current environment is full of antibiotics, then that's the current environment, and whatever you do that helps you reproduce better in that environment is an advantage. It makes you, quote-unquote, better as a bacterium. It's sort of like, are polar bears better than spectacled bears? Well, I don't know. One lives in the Arctic in a frozen wastelands like Canada, and the other one, yes, I'm dissing on Canada. It's too cold there. Anyway, and the other one lives in lush tropical jungles. They don't eat the same thing. The spectacled bear barely hunts, whereas the polar bear is a hyper carnivore that gets essentially 100% of its calories from seal meat. They'll eat humans too, but they'll actually eat just about anything. But they get a huge portion of their calories from meat. Would polar bears survive long in the jungle? No, but equally spectacled bears would die real fast in the Arctic. So, which bear is best? And of course, the correct answer is the black bear. Yeah, so actually, if I'm being honest, my favorite bear is the spectacled bear. You know why? Sole surviving member of my favorite bear subfamily, Tremarctinae, which contains my favorite bear, extant or extinct, the short-faced bear of North America. But of the extant bears, spectacled bear wins because, again, sole surviving member of Tremarctinae. Oh yeah. Now that was a deeply nerdy thing. I take another drink. So next we have turn off all your genes. No, there's a minimum viable genome for any environment, for any organism. Evolution doesn't deny this. No one has ever denied this, to my knowledge. You have to have a certain amount of various biochemical pathways working in order to maintain that thermodynamic disequilibrium, which essentially is life for your cell. Right? Because you can basically equate cell death when the cell can no longer maintain thermodynamic disequilibrium with its environment. That's it. Goopdu's favorite bear is Winnie the Pooh. I mean, it's a good choice. It's a good choice. Andrew Cummings says, creationists have an orthogenetic view of evolution in their heads, something that was debunked less than a century ago. Yeah, there does seem to be tendencies to orthogenesis. So for people who might not know, orthogenesis is this idea that evolution has like a momentum behind it, right? So elk have pretty big antlers, so they must, and we know that basally pecorins, which is sort of like the horn bearers, it includes Bovidae and Cervidae and Masucidae. I don't know, it's the musk deer who are in their own family. I don't remember exactly what the family name is, but that's also pecora. But it's also the Giraffoidea, so the giraffids and the antilocaprids. We know basally they would have had very reduced horn structures. So obviously, cervids, like elk, evolved from things that only had tiny horn antler type things. And they're getting bigger and bigger antlers. So eventually, maybe their antlers will get so big that they'll go extinct because they can't lift their heads up off the ground. Which was used to explain the extinction of things like brontotheres and some dinosaurs. And it's no, that's just not a thing. Evolution doesn't have a momentum.
It was a popular idea sort of during the eclipse of Darwinism, and natural selection sort of fell out of favor because of there wasn't a known mechanism for inheritance. Nobody knew how genetics worked really, and Mendel's work wasn't rediscovered until the early 1900s, and then it wasn't really sort of remade popular until sort of shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
So there was this period of time, sort of in the late 1800s and early 1900s, especially in like areas like France, where Lamarck was from, and also in America. It had like the guys who did the Bone Wars, like Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, and so natural selection was sort of not in favor as much. Some people still adhered to it, but others were like, yeah, maybe Lamarckism was right, maybe orthogenesis was right, maybe there are a bunch of different mechanisms sort of all operating at the same time. And so these ideas kind of lasted for a while until Mendelism came along, and then it was like, nah.
Yeah, natural selection reigns
all.
supreme. Well, not supreme, but Vishanti says that she's
yeah.
eating an egg biscuit. Man. Okay, here's the only thing I've had to eat today. Banana bread with different kinds of spread. That's it.
Tasty.
It is tasty, but it's not very nutritious. I need to have like some vegetables and maybe some like actual protein coming up soon. Okay. Here we go. Oh wait, no. There was one last thing, and then I'm finished my drink. So let me finish my drink real quick, and we'll talk about if you turn off all your genes, you'll become a human. Because that's a thing that Dr. Charles Jackson just said.
That is the thing he did say, in fact.
I don't know of anyone outside of Charles Jackson, creationist or not, who thinks the monumentally, colossally stupid thing that if a bacterium turned off all of its genes, that would make it a human. That doesn't make any sense. That's
like that
just
was
nonsense.
that was a joke that didn't land, but also like, how on earth is that a thing he ever thought would be funny? Does that even mean?
Yeah,
You think humans have fewer genes than bacteria do? Because that's not how genomes work.
no.
Bacteria can't have genomes. Eukaryotes, on average, a lot larger genomes than bacteria do, except for maybe some like super whittled down like protists or something like that, who are super specialized for some particular niche, and so they've jettisoned most of their genome. But for most eukaryotes, that is simply not the case. Bacteria can't have large genomes because they can't get enough ATP to sustain a genome that large.
Right.
Just can't do it. You have to have...
They're specialized on hyper efficiency. That's like the thing that bacteria do. They're streamlined.
We require a bacterium to have large genomes. We can't do that. Like a cell just can't do that on its own. It has to have something that is, like, I don't know, the powerhouse of the cell, something like that. That's just making loads and loads of ATP.
Mitochondria, which are basically just symbiotic bacteria.
That sounds right. I mean, you know, it could be.
Weird.
Yeah, you have to have basically a different organism doing this process for you so that you can sustain your normal metabolic functions.
Oh, okay, so Sal, I want to say thank you. He says, I know that these shows are a bit irreverent. Yes, they are intentionally so. This is my kick back and relax with the boys kind of stream. Erica included. She gets to be one of the boys. But he also says these shows are creationists should watch and learn so they don't keep repeating the same mistakes and poor choices of words. No, I agree with you. I think creationists should watch and take notes. Because...
So, hi, Sal.
Yes, hi, Sal. Sal's great, guys. And like I said, had we not already put him in S tier last year, he would have been, I think, the best overall Young Earth creationist for the Cambrian Bunny Awards. But, yeah, we do have a rule that we don't want people to win prizes 2 times in a row, because then there's just a few names that are just going to run away with it. And Smart Alec Atheist says for $2, AIG should make like roosters and cock, which is nice. But I finished my drink, which means it's time for our intermission while I get myself a new drink. And before anyone asks, yes, the clock is going the right speed now. Thank you. I was reminded many times as I asked, so really heartfelt thank you. But yes, it is now going the right speed, so you don't have to keep reminding me. So please stop. All right, we're going to get out of here for just a few minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. I have a fresh drink. Jackson apparently didn't even finish his. And here is my inaugural drink of this drink for Smart Alec Atheist, who managed to get in a pretty good AIG or a bag of dicks. Which, by the way, I've said it a few times, but I want to point out, when I mentioned AIG's behavior to Cindy Lincoln, that is, Kent Hovind's ex, who hopefully will become well known enough in our circles that we don't need to say his name anymore. But she said to me, wow, that makes them look like a bunch of cowards, so they should just respond to you. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It does. Thanks. Because, yeah, look, I disagree with Cindy a lot, but she's perceptive about that kind of thing. She's like, hey, that's a bad look for them. Yeah, you know what, Cindy? I agree with you entirely. So that's one of the reasons that I love Cindy Lincoln, is because she's definitely not afraid to call out bad behavior from people who agree with her. And I think that's valuable. So there you go. Here we go. Let's get some more Bad Jackson in.
Come on, extrapolate this. I'm not trying to be, well, I kind of am trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be absurd. This is the true
Goodness,
logic
you're
of the
failing.
situation. If
Really?
destroying a gene's function makes evolution, then why don't they just, as a matter of fact, why don't we turn off our genes and become superhumans? We could become
Wonder
like
if gene duplications happen or something.
Yeah,
That'd be weird.
Let's talk about gene duplication. So
If
So,
those happen,
Jackson-
those can't be real.
I have a hypothetical situation.
Lay
Let's-
it on me, brother.
Okay, let's say that we had a water strider.
Okay, all right.
Which-
I'm familiar. Huh?
Okay, so in case people don't know, water striders are those bugs that like walk on the surface of water because they have really spread out legs and like really big like tarsal pads and whatnot. Okay. Now let's say that it had a duplication of a gene, a developmental gene that causes some little like extra sprouts to come off of the tarsal
Okay.
segments of its leg.
And like little fans in a
Right.
sense.
Little fan,
I
because
gotcha.
normally water striders have these little projections, right? But this one now has more of them as a
Okay.
result of a gene duplication. And now it can do things like go upstream in fast-moving water, which allows it to colonize new locations that its relatives simply can't. Would that be a realistic situation?
I mean, that sounds pretty realistic. Did you just make this up? Is this just some
Oh yeah, this is
hypothetical?
off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure it didn't actually happen, right? There's not a real set of organisms like this, is there?
I mean, that like it would be like crazy if like some researchers in 2017 wrote about this and published it in like Science or something like that. It wouldn't make any sense at all.
No, like maybe it was like some kind of genus named like Ragavelia or something. Is that it?
I mean, that sounds real. I feel like that's a real thing.
Yeah. Spoiler alerts. That's an actual thing that happened. And Smart Alec Atheist for 5 says the reason AIG act the way they do is because they're compensating for what they lack in their pants. And you know what? That's close enough. I'm going to take a drink. Okay. Well, how about this? Let's say you had some ice fish, right? Okay.
Sure, let's say hypothetically, we had
Hypothetically,
some ice cream.
there's some ice fish. Now, they have some protein in their blood. I don't remember what it does. It doesn't matter. But they have a duplication event, and now they have 2 copies of that gene. And then one copy has some point mutations, and suddenly it functions as an antifreeze protein, which allows them to now colonize even colder areas. Could that happen?
I feel like it could.
It could.
Hypothetically, of course.
Now, if it were real life, what would you call these groups of organisms?
Like nodothenioids or something, maybe.
Weird. Is that a real thing? Nodothenioids?
I feel like just if I'm just like ruminating on on the spur of the moment, I'm trying to come up with a name. I'd probably place them in like a clade called nodothenioidy or something like that.
Okay,
you know?
so spoiler alerts, that's also a real thing, guys. It's almost like we've already observed the things that Charles Jackson here is just like, nah, that can't happen. Okay, buddy, sure thing.
I think
Here's
Kent Hovind has also said stuff to the effect of like evolution's about like losing genes, so you just keep getting more complex by losing stuff, and it's
Well,
like that you can you can lose stuff and become more complex. Like hypothetically, if some yeast had like a nonsense mutation in their ACE2 gene or something crazy, which prevented them from budding off, and then they became like multicellular.
Now,
Hypothetically, of course.
what if that happened in a environment where they were separated via centrifuge to select for the heaviest particulate groups of a fungus there in yeast?
I mean,
Could,
yeah,
could that
theoretically,
cause
you know,
the de novo evolution of multicellularity in a previously unicellular line?
I feel like it could.
Could-
Certainly could happen.
Did it happen?
Possible.
Did that happen? Was there an experiment we've
did.
already talked about that involved this?
Maybe also some with like chlamydomonas.
Yeah,
No?
that seems possible. A Rainy Thursday says AIG are retaining a heavenly dome of phallus. Thank you. I'll take a drink. Although do get in your favorite stem birds too, because there's still a whole vast array of untapped options for your favorite stem birds. I mean, there's like Eudimorphodon, regular Dimorphodon. There's we did Tapahara. I mean, but there's Calundrodromius. I mean, all of the Asdarcoids. So don't hold back. Anyway, let's get some more Charles in.
As guardians on Stargate or the Ori, we could be ascended ones or something.
Oh, he's trying to show off his nerd cred. Thanks, Charles Jackson. Tell you what, Charles Jackson, here's the thing. You're not a nerd, and here's how I know. Because all real nerds speak Klingon, and you don't. So get on my level, buddy.
I cannot be a theropod and speak Klingon. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you don't have to be a theropod to be a nerd. But until you're on my level, you're an insufficient nerd. As long as you're trying to use your nerd clout. If you're not trying to use nerd clout, then I don't care. Do whatever. But like, don't try to out nerd me, man. You're not gonna win that one.
I never.
Oh, you don't.
Never said that
You-
I am trying to out nerd you. In fact, I referred to you moments before this conversation happened to my sister as my nerd friend.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so yeah, Charles Jackson, don't even start.
Such a geek, I know.
No, you're really not. You've watched some sci-fi shows is all that tells me. Like, oh, I watched Stargate SG-1. Yeah, okay, great. Like, that doesn't mean you get to throw out a nerd cred. Now, I'm not trying to exclude people. Like, be a fan. I'm happy for him to enjoy the show. But, like, don't do, like, the pissing contest over nerd stuff. It's cringy, and you're not going to win.
We could all be like Yoda and have high metachlorian counts. Well,
Also, if you're going to be a nerd and try to throw around nerd cred, maybe don't use the Star Wars prequels. Just saying. It's a really bad move. No, Jackson, they're terrible.
Watch yourself, Dapper. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite. I will not be accepting questions at this time.
Yeah, you better not, because there'd be a whole lot.
okay, look at what this textbook says. Mutations have occurred, and that's what they're talking about. Here again, we notice that mutations
running
furnish
the
the source
camera?
of
There's been a few times when the camera has just been off in left field, and I'm just like, all right, sure, that's where the camera is today. All right, but let's see what
this textbook. It looks.
It's the same textbook. This is the same screenshot. Let's see what else he has to say about it.
evolutionary changes, and that the fate of the mutant gene is governed by selection. Well, that's true.
That is. We'll take a drink. Oh wait, no, he's quoting it, so it doesn't count. Damn it.
In a normal environment, mutations that confer resistance to a drug are rare or undetected. But in an environment changed by the addition of a drug, the drug-resistant mutants are favored and supplant the previously.
Okay, CRISPRCast9, who says you don't get to complain about nerd references, you have Klingon on the screen. I'm just saying, don't try to pretend to be some uber nerd when you're actually like a boring boomer. And like try to like toss around your nerd cred as Dr. Charles Jackson. Like, don't do it, man. Because I will win that. And I will shame you about how little of a nerd you are, which is not something I would normally do. Because I'm very open and welcoming of people. But when you're going to be this guy who's dishonest in the first place, and he's like, oh, I've seen Star Wars. Hey, kids. Wink, wink. Like, hello, fellow youths. Right? Like, no. No. Not on my channel, man. You don't get to do that. Not with Charles Jackson. Not with him. But yes, I do have Klingon on my stream and my thumbnail. What does it even say? I don't even remember what it says. Jackson. Okay, yeah, it says, yeah, there we go. Sorry, guys, I'm better at reading the Latinized Klingon, even though Latinized Klingon is terrible. But yeah, that's what it says. Feel free to translate that at your leisure.
Normal bacteria strains. Just like poison ivy resistant people would supplant the rest of us. Yeah.
Yeah, because poison ivy immunity is such a strong selective pressure on Homo sapiens here in the year of our Lord 2022.
Famously falling out of the sky onto people, killing them instantly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many of my human friends have died of fatal poison ivy overdoses.
I was in the poison ivy wars back in '83. We lost a lot of good men.
It was worse than the Emu Wars. Here we go.
It might be thought that the mutations conferring resistance
It's
are
true, we
actually
did win that one.
caused or induced by the drug. This is not the case. It may be thought that the mutations conferring
Look, I will admit, I'm gatekeeping with Charles Jackson. I don't want him in the nerd club.
You talking to the chat?
Yes. I'm talking to the chat.
Okay.
Because someone's like 100% gatekeeping. You know what? I'll gatekeep Charles Jackson. I don't even care. Dude's a jerk. He's a dishonest person I do not like, who says nonsense things to people to trick them into not believing science, and then they don't go get their vaccines. So yeah, I'll gatekeep the crap out of Charles Jackson. I won't gatekeep most people, but when it comes to him, nope.
resistance are actually caused or induced by the drug. This is not the case. This is a graduate level book called Understanding Evolution in the chapter on selection and action. Drug-resistant mutations arise randomly in bacterial cells, irrespective of the presence or absence of the drug.
Correct.
An experiment
That's how
devised
mutations work.
Yeah, that is.
That's how mutations work. Yeah. Okay.
Icarus says what we really need is apricot seed immunity. Correct.
I mean, yeah,
But not for the
cyanide immunity would be
cancer.
Nice.
But not for the cancer cells. Those get to stay apricot seed susceptible. Because then Kent Hovind's craziness will work.
Oh God.
by the geneticist Joshua Lederberg provides evidence that the drug acts as a selecting agent, like the presence of poison ivy,
Yeah. Well,
permitting
Sure.
okay,
Why not?
yes and then no. Look, mild inconveniences are not really selection pressure. I'm taking a drink. Hold on. Okay, look. There's a reason that, like, coyotes have never become immune to, like, having burrs stuck in their coat. Because while I'm sure it hurts to have a burr stuck in your fur and it might be scratching at your skin, or to, like, step on, like, a cholla branch. I don't know if you guys know what cholla are. They're their own little genus of cacti, and they break off these little buds that are incredibly spiky, and then animals step on them or get them lodged in their skin, and then they eventually come out in a new place and it grows into a new cholla plant. Whatever. I'm pretty sure that sucks. But I'm also pretty sure that most animals survive having burrs stuck in them or a cholla attack. And it doesn't cause any significant change in fitness as to whether or not you're immune. Like, it would take so much work to become immune to, like, having burrs stuck on you that, like, it would be far outweighed by the minor cost of occasionally having a skin irritant. Just use your immune system, you'll be fine. Like, that's the same thing with, like, humans and poison ivy. It's just like, you'll be fine. Just, like, even if you're rolling in poison ivy, you're going to have a bad couple of days, but, like, you're probably not going to die. Especially as a social species that does things like take care of each other. Right? There just isn't a selection pressure to become immune to poison ivy. If you are, congrats. Smart
Yeah,
Alec
just get, like,
Atheist for 2 says AIG is a bag of Nixons. Nice, tricky dick. Remember when presidents had nicknames? We need to bring that back.
Like Ike.
Yeah, Ike, Tricky Dick. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, that's neither here nor there. And is it a political stance? I don't think so, but it might be. So I'm not going to bother with it because I don't normally take political stances here.
Eisenhower, like, didn't pick his party until after he started running, wasn't it? he was just so
don't
popular because he was a
remember.
World War II general.
I mean, it
Like, yeah,
it
I'm gonna go
helps.
into politics and then I'll pick a party, right?
Yeah, eventually you'll figure out which team I'm on.
Yeah.
All right.
Pre-existing mutations to express themselves. Pre-existing, not new.
Okay,
So-
here it is again.
Oh my
Here it is
goodness.
again. Like, okay, what does he think? Does he think all possible mutations were created by God at the beginning? Is that his interpretation of this?
Yeah.
Because either always existed, they came into being at some point in the past.
All right, now,
Gotta pick one.
yeah, well, the thing is, he also read and didn't disagree with the idea that mutations that can cause antibacterial resistance, or sorry, antibiotic resistance in bacteria occur in wild-type populations and are currently under that selection pressure. Like, he read that bit, and he was like, okay, now moving on. I'm just like... And also, okay, so a few people have pointed out that there are plenty of nicknames for Biden and Trump, and that Bill Clinton's nickname in some areas was Slick Willie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, those were not like universal appellations that even friends were applying to them. Because like everyone was willing to call, Dwight Eisenhower just Ike. And like I don't think anyone really had a big problem with calling Nixon Tricky Dick. So, I don't know, maybe. The Gipper, yeah, the Gipper was another good one. That was Reagan, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it was Reagan. And like I'm pretty sure friends and enemies were like reasonably willing. Like if your friends aren't calling it to you and it's just like the Rush Limbaugh equivalent giving you a stupid nickname, doesn't count.
Yeah.
And by Rush Limbaugh, I mean like just, your flippant and
Political
irreverent political pundits on the other side. I'm not endorsing or condemning any of his views. I have a lot of things that I could say that I won't. But we're not doing that today. Anyway.
Even when a mutation does occur, it's not bringing anything new.
What do you mean it's
Now,
not bringing it?
What?
It
What?
is literally new. I'm taking a drink.
What the frick does that even mean?
I-
What does that mean?
Oh my
By
goodness.
definition, a change in a genetic sequence. That means it's new.
Right. If it changed to something else, it isn't what it was, and now it is newly something else. You might not like it, but it has to be new. This is... No, I've covered it. I'm going to take a drink again, because I can't. This is going to actually be one of the roughest ones that I've had in a while, like Tuesday nights, and I say that the week after talking about raw mat. Like, okay, Charles Jackson, you know better, or at least you should. At least with raw mat, I can be like, look, this is the man who thought that maybe eating was optional, so like, I'm not expecting much, right? Low bar. But Charles Jackson likes to throw around his PhD and 5 degrees. As he said in Is Genesis History, most evolutionists I talk to have at most 3 degrees. I have 5. Yeah.
Anyway.
Doesn't
but
matter.
Yeah, you're right. He was like, I thought he said 4, but yeah, regardless, it's like, I have more than most because having more degrees means you're more smarter. What
that
means.
is how that works. Man, that's just a fact.
I mean, I guess like, you could like, I have a bunch of associate degrees and a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, that doesn't really make you an expert in a lot of different fields.
It makes you
What's
competent
with you?
in a bunch of different professions, I guess.
Sure, like, yeah,
Which is something. It's not nothing.
You displayed a degree of competency in this field for 2 years. Okay, cool, glad, that's great. And
Mm-hmm.
most jobs only require that you have like an associate's degree. That's fine, but like, don't does that make you like a super expert in everything?
Look, your associate's degree in nursing doesn't make you an expert in medical science.
Right, sure.
It makes you competent to care for people in a broad range of circumstances that doesn't require actual medical expertise, but requires competence with a lot of different techniques to for first aid and patient care and stuff. And that's not easy to do, but that doesn't mean that you're now like Dr. Fauci.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then Rayward and Robert Madwell point out that it's Dr. Raw Matt. That's yes, I've heard that. It's Dr. Raw
right.
Matt.
What is it even in?
I don't know. Maybe it's in like the power of breathing over eating. Because let us never forget that in his book about how to live forever and never age, Raw Matt admitted to trying breatharianism. The man who thought, seriously, maybe I just don't need calories.
He looks like he's just not doing good. In general.
TD asks, how many degrees do I need to trade in for a shiny Eevee? Oof, man, that's like 10,000. Shiny Eevee, that's pretty good. And remember, what stone do you use to turn Eevee into a ghost-type Pokemon, everybody? That's right, the brick. Here we go.
Might be suggesting that it's a mutation that created something new.
I like the delayed reaction from Jackson. It took him a little while to get that one.
I was like, wait, what? Jesus.
I was in the Navy. I have a dark sense of humor, man. That's just how it goes.
Dang.
Well, there isn't any evidence that that has ever happened, ever. And I will show you. You might have heard of the nylon-eating bacteria.
Gestures to PubMed.
Yep. So we're going to hear about Nylonase.
Now, I hope you don't mind. I am going to show you. You might have.
There we go.
Now, they might be suggesting that it's a mutation that created something new.
Okay, yeah.
But there isn't any evidence that that has ever happened, ever. And I will show you. You might have heard of the nylon-eating bacteria. Now,
you mean the ones that came up with a brand new enzyme to break down nylon? Yeah, Nylonase.
It was due to
I've heard
several
of it.
Point mutations.
Just taking a drink, because like now, no new features or proteins ever come about. Like, ignore Nylonase, a brand new protein. What? Yeah, so I'm taking a drink.
Sure, he's just gonna say like it was a gene that already existed, which like yes, but that's how evolution worked. How would you evolve a gene that doesn't already exist? What does that mean?
Yeah, maybe he's gonna get into stuff like de novo gene creation or orphan genes or something. I don't know. We'll find out.
I hope you don't mind. I'm going into this way more in depth than I do normally with high school groups or anything because you guys are an academic group.
You're what academic group? It looks like you're in a church. I presume it's just the congregation. Is this the congregation for a school? Is it a school church? Like, was that a joke?
Is that a joke that didn't land?
That's the only thing I can think of. I'll just take a drink. Maybe it was just a joke that didn't land.
You're well informed and you have a lot of silver-haired people. Yeah,
They're listening to you. I doubt that.
Yeah.
It's a crown of glory. I always thought it is a crown of glory, but it does say it's the beauty of old men is their gray hairs. So my college students, it says that the glory of young men is their strength. And so I say, well, you might have glory. I said, but I'm more beautiful than you. The Bible says the beauty of old men is their gray hairs. And I said, you don't have beautiful hair like I do.
Yeah, that's cringy and a joke that didn't land.
Some boomer humor right there.
Here's some fun stuff also. Dr. Charles Jackson is going to be starring in the upcoming sci-fi epic creationist adventure series Quantum, where he has a robot companion. It's the same robot they use for Evil Tommy in Power Rangers. So that's a fun fact. That's right. Evil Tommy is now going to be accompanied. That's my headcanon for Quantum. Is that Evil Tommy, after he got like blown up in that episode, he got reassembled by Dr. Charles Jackson, who's in whichever alternate universe that was in. And Dr. Charles Jackson is now going to be touring around the dystopian future where Christianity is outlawed in his time machine that will take him back to Bible times with Evil Tommy. That's my headcanon for the show Quantum. So.
Isn't it like they saved Jesus or something like that?
No, because if you save Jesus, I think that like invalidates Christianity as a whole.
Like that defeats the whole purpose.
Right. Like you can't save Jesus. You gotta let it go. Which, to be fair, in the Gospels is what Jesus says when people try to defend him from the soldiers. They're like, no, this is supposed to happen. Just stop it. So, like, yeah, even in the narrative itself, Jesus is like, no, this is happening. We're doing this. It's gonna suck, but we're doing it.
Look on the bright.
That's a
side of
direct
life.
quote from the Gospel of John, by the way. No, we're doing this. It's
They
in
started singing "Look on the bright."
there. Right. No, that was a different Messiah.
I'm 95% sure that was Jesus who did that.
Well, then why was his name Brian?
Doesn't seem right.
Hmm.
Heretic,
Yeah.
dapper.
So I can't let them get away with, being all cocky about being young. It's overrated. So
Okay.
here we go.
Ah.
Look at this. 1990, ancient bacteria revived from the Sunday Herald. Scientists at the University of Alberta, Canada, have revived bacteria from members of the historic Franklin expedition, who mysteriously perished in the Arctic nearly 150 years ago. They found their bodies frozen, body parts. Not only are the 6 strains of bacteria almost certainly the oldest ever revived.
Yeah, in 1990, that was probably true. We're way past that now, buddy. Why are you using 1990? But whatever.
Well, that was in 1990. They've since revived older ones, but let's go on. 3 of them also happen to be resistant to antibiotics.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. The thing about mutations is they're random, approximately. They're not
Right.
100% random, but there's a large degree of stochasticity in the mutation process. Well, okay. So given that bacterial populations are in easily the billions, they often have genomes of just a few million base pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, any given population are going to be some who have a mutation that confers them resistance to some given antibiotic.
Yeah, we call these things
Almost
we call these
Go
things
ahead.
mutation saturated. That means that the population has currently sampled every single simple mutation. So every
There
point
are-
mutation and every relatively small deletion or insertion has already occurred in this population. It's already there. Humans
There are
are
reports
in a similar situation.
from
Sorry.
the 1950s, or I think the late 40s, early 50s, bacteria that were already resistant to penicillin, even though penicillin would continue to be used in large quantities until the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the very beginning, Fleming and the others were already aware of penicillin-resistant bacteria because mutation saturation. This is not confusing or surprising to literally anybody who knows anything about biology.
Right, which presumably includes Charles Jackson because he has a bachelor's degree in biology.
4 degrees, Dapper.
Oh my goodness. And I was
4
willing to give him another one because I thought he'd said 5. But yeah, okay, 4. Whew.
He's got 1,000 degrees. Dapper, he's got
Goodness.
10 degrees, 12 degrees.
12 degrees? From Kevin Bacon? Is he 12 degrees from Kevin Bacon? Okay, here we go.
In this case, the antibiotics clindamycin and cefoxitin,
Yeah.
both of which were developed more than a century after the men had died.
Which is
Those are-
entirely unsurprising.
They're both beta-lactams.
But here's the thing though, as we said, these populations were already mutation saturated. So if any mutation can provide resistance to either or both of these, it will have occurred statistically with extremely high probability. We're talking not 0.9 with many, many nines after it before you get to the first thing that isn't a 9, and it's probably an 8 anyway. That's what we're talking about. Anyway.
This just proves what I'm saying is true scientifically. There's always somebody in the group, or there's often somebody in the group that's already immune. Nothing.
Yeah, that's how natural selection. I'm taking a drink. That's literally how it works.
Yeah, how would natural selection operate on an allele that doesn't exist? How do you propose that works, Dr.
And the thing is,
Charles
he
Jackson?
needs natural selection to work. He needs it to actually function to get all of his different kinds off the ark. He probably thinks bacteria, the entire domain of
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably thinks that's all just one kind, because the farther away you get from humans, phylogenetically speaking, the bigger kinds tend to get. Weird.
because it's almost like creationists don't care at all about things that aren't humans, and it's all just a
apparently
a
God doesn't
theological
either.
Imperative.
God, for some reason, God is really, really restrictive with like mammal kinds. He's like, no, you have very small windows of variability. But then when it comes to like bacteria kinds, he's just like, you know what, go wild, have fun.
We are more closely related to oak trees than some bacteria are to each other.
That is extremely correct.
And yet,
it's still
all
a bacterium.
bacteria are related.
Yep. Yeah, if any two bacteria can be related, then humans can be related to oak trees easily. Here we go.
Nothing new is needed. So we've got an existing trait, or we've got a trait that is destroyed, and thereby the antibiotic can't work.
I wonder if there's like another option.
I'm sorry, hold on. Are you saying that the existing traits that it's already working on are generally not broken? Because all the various mutations that he pointed to conferring antibiotic resistance, his complaint was, well, you know, it broke some other function, which, first, not entirely true, because you can do things like change the like shape of an import channel on your cell membrane without losing its ability to import what you do need, while also eliminating the ability to import some antagonistic toxin that was using that transport channel. That's a thing you can do.
Hypothetically, right?
Hypothetically. Yeah, no, that's never actually happened. We've never actually seen organisms change the size and the shape of their transport channels. My goodness. Can you believe the chaos that will result? It's almost like evolution would be true. So, while that is an option, he's been complaining that the observed instances of antibacterial resistance always involve some quote-unquote loss of function, but now he's saying that was always in the genome. So I guess it's part of the perfect designed, like, diversity of the bacteria. Like, you gotta pick a lane, dude. Be consistent with yourself. I've said it several times just today. I know that young Earth creationism is never going to be consistent with reality. I get it. Fine. But could it be consistent with itself, please? That's like
continuity
at this
within the canon.
Right. You're doing bad world building, right? You're saying that, like, oh, we defeated the Dark Lord in 1362. Okay, but then how come your story set in 1367 has the Dark Lord active with a big army? Yeah, good question. Fix your world building, man. Your fantasy land doesn't even make sense on its own terms. As someone who enjoys sci-fi and fantasy, world building matters to me. And as I know you apparently enjoy at least 2 whole sci-fi franchises, Charles Jackson, it should be important to you too.
And neither
knows it's
of these will get you anywhere on the evolutionary tree.
What?
I wrote this
like,
when this came out in 2000.
Don't exist and don't have like free living counterparts or anything. That just
no.
That's
Look,
not real.
There are no
Christ.
parasitic crustaceans, because if there were, then that would, I mean, how could free living crustaceans exist? That wouldn't work.
Just
By the way, if you ever want to be absolutely horrified by real world organisms, look into parasitic crustaceans. None of them are in any way not horrifying.
You asked me a long time ago about a parasitic barnacle video. There will be a barnacle's tail in the Ancestor's Tale, so you will get your wish. My dad
including the
did that.
parasitic ones?
Like what is
Nice.
it? Saculina, I think, is one of them. The ones that like basically cause the organisms to like not have sex anymore and only eat.
Ooh. Well, okay,
'Cause,
I'll be
like,
honest.
I don't
my
need
favorite
you copulate. I just need you to keep feeding me.
Just eat.
Basically it. So.
One of my favorite parasites though is the jellyfish that people thought maybe was like a different kind of single-celled organism, so because they're so radically reduced. But like, oh no,
mixozoans.
yeah, mixozoans, because like you do the like genetic study, and it's like, no, these are just straight up cnidarians, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah, there was a lot of
that's surprising.
a lot of controversy for many years because the sequences that they were used, like 18S rRNA and stuff like that, the normal older phylogenetic methods that they were using place them because they're so reduced.
Right.
They lack like a lot of the genes that other things lack, and their morphology is not the same. They even lack, or some of them at least, like Hennegia or Hennegia, however you pronounce it, even lack like a mitochondrial genome.
Yeah, like why
That's
bother?
whack.
Yeah.
Just whack for an animal. Although there are like rhizocephalans and some barnacles which also lack like nervous systems. So there are animals within these groups that have lost their nervous system because they have so specialized on a parasitic role.
Take that, everyone who said the amorphous shame was unrealistic. Well, I'll explain it later, but it has to do with the Cambrian Basin superorganism. Mystery Fleshpit National Park! Alright, we're gonna have some more Jackson in.
6, Science News. The red is what the evolutionists wrote, and the black is me. Okay. Bacteria that live in dirt are surprisingly resistant to antibiotics, even those they have presumably never encountered before, according to new research in 2006. And then Science Magazine said that the same month, they also reported on it. This past January, Science reported soil bacteria were tested against a mix of 21 old and new antibiotics. They were all already immune to at least 7 of the drugs.
Could it possibly be that they were like
Taking a drink,
very
but yeah.
common, like beta lactams, for instance, such that
You know,
these things have all been used for decades,
but here's the other
and
thing,
so
right?
it's not surprising to anyone.
But here's the other thing, right? Mutation saturation is a thing. Bacterial populations, as a rule, are mutation saturated because so many of them reach that relatively small population size that's required. Which means, literally, if any mutation can cause immunity to a given antibiotic, that mutation already exists in a segment of the population. So there you go. That's literally all it takes, is we have enough population size that all the mutations are sampled, which is the case for most bacterial populations in the wild. So, hey, congratulations, some of you are already antibiotic resistant. Woo! Because of math. As your chance of having sampled the entire mutation space reaches 1, your chance of having members of the population immune to given toxin also approaches 1. Those things go in tandem.
Whoa,
Weird.
craziness.
Some were immune to 15 of them already
Great.
without evolving that resistance. So what I'm telling you is scientifically known and demonstrated. It's nothing new.
That's true.
Correct?
It's just also
guess.
evolution. Just take a drink. I can't with that one. It's like, once
Sure,
again,
why not?
once again, you explain the entire recipe for a pizza and then declare, but that's not a pizza. Okay.
Just flatbread with cheese
And tomato sauce.
and tomato sauce. Yeah. Jesus.
My goodness, this is dumb.
There is a third way that bacteria can become resistant to the drugs we make.
Nice little slip there. Nice little slip. Now we know that you know. Okay. Thanks, Chucky.
And that is plasmid transfer. Bacteria have their DNA in a little rubber band loop. They have one chromosome.
Okay, do we drink for that being true? Because while it's not a chromosome, it is one little loop.
I mean, sure. We'll
Okay,
just
well,
say it's a sure.
Close
Why not?
enough.
It's
not actually a chromosome, but like, I get what you're going
the
for.
bar is in the basement at this point, Dapper. It's in.
I did compare him favorably to Raw Matt, so yeah. Once I've compared you favorably to Raw Matt, like, oh, well, you're not as bad as Raw Matt. Like, my level of respect for you is already pretty low, because otherwise I would pick a better person to compare you to.
I do think it's interesting because he said there is a third. I think sort of implying that this is his final. But okay,
and
so
yet we still have over an hour to go in this video.
So okay, but so his examples were horizontal gene transfer, fine. Loss of function, and what was the other one?
I think we're going to go with horizontal gene transfer.
I mean, horizontal gene transfer is the third one.
Oh.
Second one was loss of function mutations.
Oh.
What was the other one?
I think it was pre-existing variation.
Or they were pre-existing.
Which is just the same thing as mutations.
Oh, he's not even aware of, like, efflux pumping. Not even going to mention, like, which isn't even changing the protein, really. You're just upregulating often the protein functions. Kicking it back out instead of like, changing the active site, the enzyme, or something like that. He's not even covering all of the ways that antibiotic resistance actually works.
Jackson, it's just these 3 ways. Just accept it.
Only those,
even though 2 of them are the same.
One chromosome. And they can actually make copies of their DNA and just ooze it out into the environment. And if another bacteria is nearby, he can catch that. They trade DNA like Pokemon cards or base.
Yeah, like, I'm glad that you accept another... I'm glad that Dr. Charles Jackson accepts yet another mechanism for evolution, which is to say horizontal gene transfer, which is much more common among, prokaryotes than eukaryotes, but does occur in eukaryotes too.
He's describing transformation. There's also transduction, which is when bacteria get plasmids from bacteriophages, and then there's conjugation, where bacteria exchange genes between each other.
It's like banging, but for bacteria.
Even do it with sex pili. So yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. I'm sure there's already Rule 34 content for sex pili.
Baseball cards.
Probably is.
For you silver-haired people, baseball cards. For you young people in your 20s or 30s, maybe you remember Pokemon. But they trade.
Yeah, I think they remember the ongoing, still successful game franchise, entertainment, media giant Pokemon that is persisting to this day.
A couple years ago or something.
That's another one of these things where it's just like, what's your target audience, Jackson? Bad Jackson? Like, seriously. Because, like, are you trying to make people feel old for having collected baseball cards while also showing that you're completely out of touch with the youth by being like, well, you might remember Pokemon, I don't know.
Pokemon was a thing of, like, 20 years ago, right? Do kids still remember Pokemon?
Do the kids still do the Pokemons? I don't know.
The Pokemon.
My goodness. Just stop, dude.
Oh, no.
All right, here we go.
These things, and they can do this between species.
Yeah.
If one species of bacteria in the world has a gene that makes it immune to the effect of the new drug we invent, just one bacteria, he can give it to every other germ he meets, and they can make copies of.
Yeah, that's theoretically. I can't say it's impossible.
Not necessarily going to happen,
but yeah, it's very unlikely to actually happen in real life, right? Like,
that could potentially happen, yes, but probably not.
To be fair, I don't think he's relying on much more than that potential, but the problem still rises.
Sure.
I mean, okay, but that gene arose somehow. Was it
right.
I think it's mutation. Yeah, that's it. That's the thing that
Doesn't sound real.
I feel like it's real. Okay, we're gonna ask the chat. Here we go. We're gonna make a poll because we haven't made a poll yet this stream, and I've been into polls yet. Okay, I'll capitalize the is mutation real? Question mark. Ask your community. All right, guys. There's a yes and no question. Is mutation real? Feel free to answer it at your leisure. If you answer wrong, I will be disappointed in my audience, which rarely happens. So, I got faith in you guys. I've got faith of the heart in you guys. Yeah.
And give it away. This is called plasmid transfer. Again, it doesn't require any new traits, any new DNA, any new genes. Somebody already has it, and they just share it with each other.
Yeah, but they had to get it, man. They had to get, like,
came from somewhere, didn't it?
I'm taking a drink because like it's so close. It
Gets to the. You're right. It's like he's at the actual like mechanism part. He just needs to go the step before the mechanism.
right. It's just like you're right, just hovering on like a knife's edge, and like you just shuffle forward a little bit, and you'll be on the other side of it. Just shuffle. Just do the little shuffle. CRISPR Cat calls me out on it being a Star Trek reference that I have faith of the heart. Yeah, that's a deep cut. Well, it's not that deep if you watched like all of classic Trek, but if you're just casually familiar with Star Trek, then yeah, you're probably not going to be aware of that one.
And this.
Oh, by the way, I've actually found out Faith of the Heart did not just, it wasn't like written for Star Trek. It was already like a song that people sang, and like Star Trek like bought the rights to use it as a theme song. That's just weird to me because as far as I know, all the other Star Trek theme songs have been bespoke. Here we go.
This is common at plasmid transfer. We'll get to that. Now, here's this thing. 1994, Science News reported about the 1 billion-year-old bacteria, blue-green bacteria. What intrigues J. William Schaff, paleobiologist at UCLA, most is a lack of change. The 1 billion-year-old fossils of blue-green bacteria, they surprisingly looked exactly like modern species.
So he isn't surprised, and no one else is. Cyanobacteria,
Which have been around identifiably for
Cyanobacteria.
billions of years.
they've been around for like, I think the fossil record of cyanobacteria goes back like at least, okay, because the great oxygenation event was like 2.4 to 2.1 billion years ago. You can find little streptococcal bacteria going back like I think 3 billion years or so.
Shocker that in 3 billion years, this group of photosynthetic organisms might have settled upon a pretty efficient design.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, what do you want? They do what they do, and they don't need to do much else.
Yeah.
Like they also have, interestingly, cyanobacteria have a very rudimentary division of labor. So like nostoc and Annabena, they can essentially do things that are sort of multicellular-y, where they will turn some cells into heterocysts. And so what these will do is these will fix like nitrogen, the surrounding cells, and there are aconites. I'll be getting those backwards, but I believe it's the aconites which function as like little storages. They can like distribute nutrients to the other nearby cells. So basically what you have is you have this very simple division of labor in a unicellular organism. And you really don't need much else because light exists in most places. And
Or at least enough places.
yeah, it exists in a lot of places, and as long as you inhabit those places, you're good. You don't really need to do anything.
Yeah.
So
You just kind of sit around and absorb it and turn it into sugar after you absorb some extra carbon and water. Which, you're living in the water, so there's a lot of water, and you're living in a place that has carbon dioxide that dissolves into the water, so it's a lot of carbon dioxide too. So you're kind of set. I mean, trace elements, sure, that you need, but also you're in a salty ocean, so trace elements, you know.
I mean, it's almost like the majority of our planet fulfills all of those criteria.
Yeah, at least at the surface.
Majority of the surface of the planet.
Yeah. Which might explain the global distribution of cyanobacteria. You think?
Oh, crazy.
Weird.
Stuff.
All right, here we go.
Wild.
Let's get some more Charles Jackson.
Kinds reproducing after their kinds. You see,
But what's a kind, dude? You haven't told us.
a billion.
Sorry.
I think they've been the cyanobacteria kind goes back a billion.
There's one cyanobacteria kind.
Is that what he's? I mean, okay, I guess. But
All right, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up. We got a quick question from TD Lane who says, question for Jackson. How monophyletic are plants? I think it's entirely.
like embryophyta, as in like the land plants, because that's
I think that's what he means.
monophyletic.
I mean,
Because there's because the plants, the what we consider plants are the embryophytes, the land plants, which is the hadophytes, and the xerophytes, bryophytes, and then your ferns and horsetails and lycophytes and flowers and bearing plants. It's all embryophyta. It's monophyletic. Algae, they're nest within the green algae, which has flipped to multicellularity a whole bunch of times. Plants are monophyletic.
WS Wordsman is correct. I haven't asked for likes yet. Guys, it really helps if you like a lot. And I'm seeing about 21-ish people, maybe 22 because I can't math, who haven't hit like yet. And it really helps a lot. So yeah, please do hit like. But we're going to start wrapping this up. Jackson, what do you got coming out on your channel?
I just finished a secret project, which I'm very excited about. But and I'll probably be putting that out there when it's finished, maybe a month or so. The Gorilla's Tale is up next in the Ancestor's Tale. I believe we have the next video in our genetics series. The script is done. Nestle finished that.
Nice.
So that should be coming out soon. So yeah, that genetics video, Gorilla's Tale. Of course, we'll just keep, trucking on with our Ancestor's Tale series. Only like 50 more videos in this series left.
Nice. All right. Well, here on the Dapper Dino channel, let me open up a little calendar so I make sure I get everything right. So, on Thursday, there should be the next episode of the Speculative Evolution Project after like 3 or 4 months, which I know it's too long. Unfortunately, it's kind of been crazy. So I've been trying to get as far enough ahead on scripted videos as I can so I feel comfortable making another one of those videos, because this one took like over 2 weeks to make. It's a long time to get all of the art done, to get everything squared away with the World Anvil, to make what changes I need to, and then the audio has been a bit of a disaster this week because there's been construction everywhere. So my normal audio recording time is fairly early in the morning, but when construction starts fairly early in the morning, I got nothing. So in this upcoming Speculative Evolution program, you're actually going to find a couple of my patrons and channel members. That group of supporters has pitched in. And by the way, is mutation real or not real? We got no at 11% and yes at 88%. So there you go. And I mean, there's some weird number like 36 votes. So that's why the numbers are a little weird. All right, back to the thing. Saturday. I'm not positive what's going to be on Saturday. I might do more of the book about North American giants, because that was wacky. But I can't be certain. So I'll look forward to that. And then Tuesday, the 1st, next month, is going to be Kent with Bent. That is the plan. And then, but there's one thing I forgot. On Wednesday, the 23rd, so tomorrow, if all goes according to plan, Guts Gibbon will be premiering a video that is a collaboration between myself, Dr. Dan, and obviously Guts Gibbon, because it's her channel. But the part 2 is going to be coming out hopefully on Thursday the 3rd. So stay tuned for that. So we're going to actually end up probably doing 6 parts, and they're going to rotate between Erica's channel, my channel, and Dr. Dan's channel. And you're not invited, Jackson.
Oh, sucks to suck, but here we are.
Sorry. But we've done a lot of collaborations too. So plus Dan doesn't get his own Dan with show.
Maybe he should.
Well, I don't know which creationist to use for that, but
Dan with
see.
Wait.
Oh.
Who is Danny Faulkner? Danny Faulkner.
Does Danny Faulkner do enough videos? Yeah, and Dan doesn't know enough about astronomy. I'm not sure I do either.
For Dan to become an astronomer.
Well, okay, Dan. Time to get your next PhD. Go. You'll have more. You'll have as many degrees as Charles Jackson. Sorry. All right, guys. That's going to be it for us. We're going to talk to you guys later. So hopefully you enjoy all that stuff that's coming up. And check out Jackson's channel if you haven't already, because that's crazy. Anyone who subscribes to me should
Crazy,
subscribe to
dog.
Jackson. Anyway, I'm out. I just want to take a minute to thank my channel members and patrons, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Bent Hovend, Denny5252, Ian Chen, John Ackerman, Chris Love, Landon Noel, Lingwei, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Veed, and Patrick Dennis. The people whose names you see on screen right now are a big part of keeping the lights on here at Casa Dino, and without them, this channel really wouldn't exist in the form that it does now. If you'd like to join this awesome team, there are links down in the description to join the channel or to join my Patreon. It starts at only $1 on Patreon or $1.99 here on YouTube. There's also a convenient join button right below this video if you want to join as a member on YouTube. Joining lets you see most of my videos early, in some cases more than a month early. Also, you can join an exclusive member and patron-only Discord server, which has a pretty direct line to me. And as you go up in tier, you get more and more benefits, including getting your name on this list. If a monthly subscription isn't really for you, but you still like to help out the channel, there's a merch store linked in the description. It has t-shirts, it has baby onesies, it has mugs, it has blankets, anything you want, Dapper Dino branded. And if none of that seems right for you, please just like and share my videos and subscribe to the channel. That helps immensely. Thank you very much.